Yep. And it really pisses me off when people don't understand where you're coming from, someone like yourself, where you're coming from, and then they jump into the conversation and then they bring in all the isms. And you're it's like, wait a second. Number one, you don't know what his takes are. You know, I haven't heard anybody do that about you, but you know what I mean. In general, anybody who has a take like that, they jump in with the isms, and it's very hard to fight. That's why a lot of people have just embraced it. Like, okay, you call me racist, all right. Just like I say, you call me a coon, okay, I'm a raccoon, whatever. Pro-black was like black excellence, like you just said.
Excellent whites, white excellence.
I want you to be the best you could be. Don't make any excuses. Even Obama, when he ran in '08, Obama out of his own mouth basically said, I want any excuses from black people.
For the African American community, that path means embracing the burdens of our past without becoming victims of our past.
Excellence without cruelty towards others is just incredibly based, no matter who you are.
The Monthly Rumble.
This is a tweet from Classics Grape. Whites don't have a team. We are broken up into individuals while every other group organizes tribally. So we keep playing for other people's teams. Organize around our race and around our interests and to take our side.
Whites are prevented from organizing around our race. Then that means that all the whites that are elite, that work in media, that work in politics, that are just all white elites, basically, they aren't organized into a white Australian community or a white American community, working together in unison, thinking about what's in our group interests. They're broken up into individuals. And so if you're not pursuing a group interest and you go and work in a group, well, the people who are pursuing a group interest will be the one that drive the logic of that group, and you will just be brought in as an individual partner. What do you want as an individual? You want to get paid, you want status, whatever it is. Those things can be given to you in exchange for you being a team player, but you don't actually have a team. You're just working for someone else's team. White people don't have a team in politics. White people that work in politics are just working for other people's teams.
For those who might not understand, because you said you're a white identitarian, for those who might kind of, people who aren't really following this stuff, even people who watch the videos from my channel might not even understand it. What do you think about that, how that was framed there?
I consider myself a race realist in that I think that race is not a social construct. I think that race is a biological reality, that people are, even if they're multiple races, those races exist. I believe that race is significant, that it's a part of our identity, much like being a man or a woman or a religion. It's a significant part of our identity. But only one race, and it happens to be the one I'm in, but people that are of different races also recognize this, that whites are discriminated against, that we're the only ones that really aren't allowed to have our sense of our own sense of identity. I think part of that is genetic. I think part of that is cultural, that whites don't exactly think that way, and we've also been trained and propagandized, brainwashed into not thinking as a collective. And no, I think that that's on point. Reason I say I'm a white identitarian is because I believe that whites have an identity and that they should be much like any other group, that they should be looking out to a certain extent. I mean, I'm not saying things like to be cruel or to be immoral, but just in the same way that there's that other groups have a sense of identity in their group, whites are no different, and that we should stand up for our own, I guess, rights. But I don't mean this in the modern Western sense. I just in our interests. Interests and duties are a much better lens to see the world through than rights, because it's not an entitlement thing. It's we should be pursuing our own interests in the same way that other groups, other nations, other people groups do. And every time whites try to stand up, they're imprisoned. I mean, that's what I think J6 was about. That's what I think Charlottesville was about. It's what I think World War II was about. And that's too much to get into. Not that I'm afraid of getting into it. It's just like that World War II is a big topic, but yeah, absolutely. I like Joel Davis. But one thing I will say is like I want it to be a Christian white movement because some of these white identitarians, they think it's fine for like broke ass trans be part of the white identity movement, and I don't want them either. I want excellent whites, white excellence rather than just white. Like I don't think Oliver Anthony should be in our movement. So I think that it needs to be Christian, but also whites were responsible for spreading. No race was responsible for spreading more of Christianity than whites. So they are pretty linked. I think that Christendom historically is white. Not that I think only whites can be saved. That's not Christian at all. But I think that a Christian white movement is what our society needs. So yeah.
Yeah, my life has been crazy, man. Because I grew up listening to hip hop in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I've never been a full identitarian. I was probably more on that left side growing up, and that's just the way hip hop always was. Now it's become toxic. But originally, pro-black was never anti-white or anything else. And what you're describing to me, it reminds me a lot, not in the same method, it's a different, expression of it, but it reminds me a lot of I would say a positive pro-black movement from back in the day. The pro-black movement, believe it or not, it's so long ago, young people probably don't even really understand it. Pro-black was like black excellence, like you just said.
Excellent whites, white excellence.
I want you to be the best you could be. Don't make any excuses. Even Obama, when he ran in '08, Obama out of his own mouth basically said, I want any excuses from black people.
For the African American community, that path means embracing the burdens of our past without becoming victims of our past.
But before that, I'm talking about the 90s, it was no excuses. It was black excellence. You have a family. You take care of your kids. You got a job. And God was a part of it too. And all of that was kind of the pro-black movement. And then at some point along the way, it went completely sideways, bro. What do you think about that? That's what that reminds me of, is a more of a positive. I'm not an identitarian, so I can't go all the way there, but it reminds me of the positive. And you know about the pro-black movement from back in the day. We've talked about it.
100%. And I fully support that. And I think that that is every individual and every group's responsibility to just be like that. I think if the world was like that, it would be a much better world. It'll never be perfect. I'm a big fan of black excellence, white excellence. That's another reason that I was still am very pro Malcolm X, and I'm anti Martin Luther King. I don't think that Martin Luther King led a pro black excellence movement. I think it was much closer to what the things Malcolm X was talking about. So no, I definitely remember the 90s with that. And I think that's based. I think that excellence without cruelty towards others is just incredibly based, no matter who you are.
The Monthly Rumble.